Good evening, Carmentary. We're back for an evening ride. I'm going to answer another question that I received recently, and we got a new angle here. I'm going to try a new angle so you get a little bit more of a view out the window, although it's going to get real dark real quick here. Let's see if we can talk about family-friendly resorts here in Hokkaido. I had a question through my Instagram DMs, and it was something to the effect of, do you have any recommendations for family-friendly resorts? So, I can't speak for the rest of Japan, but I can tell you about the Sapporo area, and we'll talk about Niseko as well, which I think are the two kind of popular zones. Maybe we'll throw in Rusutsu as well. So I think the key for a family-friendly resort, I have 3 daughters. They're all raised here, and they all learn to ski and snowboard at a variety of hills, which I'll talk about. I think the key for a good time, is having the base lodge or the base restaurant, some kind of a facility at the base of the mountain that has, a good kind of restaurant, a good toilet setup, maybe a lobby, and its access or its proximity to the lifts or gondola that you're going to be using is good. It has to be close. I think that's the key. If that base facility is kind of a little far away or not in such a good location, it does make it tough, especially in the beginning when your kids are small and you're trying to teach them to ski or snowboard, or you're just trying to do laps with them, but you need to take more breaks. They need little snacks. Maybe one of you is skiing and the other one is watching another kid, or there's all kinds of situations with families. It's hard to speak to every single situation, but I'm going to tell you the places that have that kind of a setup. So where should we start with? Let's start out in Niseko. I took our kids to Niseko Moiwa. It is a small resort at the very western end of the Niseko resorts. You got Hanazono, Hirafu, Niseko Village, Adnupuri, and then Moiwa. Moiwa is not part of the Niseko United, so it's doing its own thing. It's a small resort. And they built a very small beginner's lift about, I don't know, is that 8 or 9 years ago now? I think it's under 10 years. It was a recent addition, and at first it was like, wow, why did you build that? But it's a great little lift. It's a brilliant little lift for families with little kids or just beginners if you're just a beginner skier. And I think it's intimidating to get on a long lift and have this long run coming down, even if it's not so steep or not really a hard run. Just the length can be tough. So Moiwa has a great little beginner's lift. I think it's called Daisan Quad or something like that. Next to that, they have a pear lift that goes up, and that, until they built that new lift, that was all they really had for the beginners, and it's very steep. It's not a beginner's lift. So that's kind of why they made this new addition. It has a little course called Ferries, and the Ferries course is a very mellow little cat track, but mellow but still kind of fun for the kids. They love that. There's a little powder on the sides. So I highly recommend that if you've got little kids and you just want to do lots of little laps. And just I think it's important for kids to do a lot of runs. And if you have a long lift with a long run, they're not going to want to do a lot of runs. They get tired, man. It's tough, they got these crappy little gloves and their hands get cold, and they're trying their best, but they get frustrated and they want to take a break, and then you get frustrated and you're like, no, we paid for this expensive lift ticket, we gotta go on another run, god damn it. And that's when things start to deteriorate. So we always had a great time at Niseko Moiwa on the beginner's lift. That's my recommendation. The restaurant is within it's 50 meters away. It's an aging building with kind of crappy toilets, but on the second floor of the restaurant, the food is it's good. Peak season, it does get kind of crowded, but all in all, family vibes, old school Japanese ski hill. now owned by a foreign entity, but we'll leave that aside. The vibes are still there. Okay, next, Hanazono. While we're in Niseko, Hanazono is the bomb for everybody, but for families, I definitely think they have it worked out. Especially if you are a high-earning family. For all the lawyers and doctors and dentists and bankers and 401k people out there, Hanazono is the shit. They got the Park Hyatt Hotel now. I'll tell you, 30 years ago, by the way, Hanazono was nothing. It was owned by the Tokyo, the company that owns Hirafu. And when we used to go there, they had these prefab buildings, these like those prefab structures that they had thrown a whole bunch of them together, maybe like 15 or 20 of them, with these creaking wooden floors. There were juice machines that you'd buy a hot coffee at. I think they served ramen and udon and a couple basic Hokkaido meals. You could get a meal for like probably like 700 yen or something. It was cheap. And that was it. You know, these like crappy, they call them pipe isu. They're like these foldable cheap chairs that were all bent and crappy as well. Like, it was unbelievable. That was like 30 years ago. And today, you're gonna pay $3,000 a night to stay at the Park Hyatt. Talk about change, man. Anyway, a lot of infrastructure has been put in at Hanazono Park Hyatt Hotel. They have a new restaurant right in front of the brand new 6-person lift with heated chairs, leather, beautiful, hooded. And right next to that is the gondola, brand new 10-person gondola, also beautiful, lit up with LED lights at night, so it's all fancy. They even put the gondola station, like you need a big building to store the gondolas at night. You take them off of the rope, the wire that gets them up there, and they have to store them away in a building. They put that building at the top, which they don't usually do. They usually put the building at the bottom. But they put the building at the top so that all the people who stay in the Park Hyatt Hotel and are spending $3,000 to $5,000 a night don't have to look at an ugly building right outside their window. Good job! Smart move. So it's well designed. Now for the kids and the family thing, having the restaurant right in front of that 6-man lift and gondola is key. That is a great setup. Great setup. The prices for the food are not cheap. You're not going to get a 700 yen bowl of ramen anymore. It's going to be close to 2,000 yen probably. Their former restaurant lift ticket sales building, I forget what it's called. It's called Hanazono 308 or something like that. It's right there when you come in. That building has been turned into like this whole kids play facility with like these like climbing structures, those pools with all the plastic balls in them that you can jump in, and there's all kinds of good stuff. I think you can pay and have someone like keep an eye, like it's a daycare kind of setup. So I think you can leave your kids there and go skiing. Don't, you know, hold me to that, but check it out on the web. It's all on their website. Really top-notch facilities all around. They got a park. The gondola, the new gondola they put in, I think it was like 3 years ago, it doesn't access the greatest like powder terrain. So some locals were kind of bitching and moaning about that, but it's not the point. It's a kind of intermediate, beginner to intermediate kind of run. Kind of goes like this, but on the left side of it, the skier's left side, they've built jumps and rails and boxes, and it's like a nice little slope style course. And then there's room to ski on the side of it. So if you have like teenagers who maybe want to hit the jumps, you can like ride right down next to them and be checking it out, which is kind of fun. Usually the the jump runs are kind of like just jump runs. You know, you don't really want to go skiing there. So I thought that was a cool feature. All in all, a real good setup for pretty much everyone, from the little kids up to your really high-end powder riders. Hanazono has the famous strawberries zone with all the pillows and all that good stuff. So yeah, boy, I sound like I work for the marketing department in Hanazono, don't I? All right, enough about Hanazono. You guys are gonna have to pay me some money to say anything else. Let's go to Sapporo. I think a lot of people will come to Sapporo. And the big ones, well, Sapporo has 6 resorts within the city limits. Kokusai being the furthest away, but the biggest resort. A family-friendly resort, of course, Kokusai is, but to be honest with you, even the beginner courses are not really like uber beginner courses. They're kind of like high beginner. There's some narrow sections, some steep sections, even on the beginner courses. The beginner course is like kind of narrow, and then at the end you got this little tricky S-curve thing, and then you have to join in with the main family course, which is actually kind of steep at the end, and it's tricky. It's not for this ultra beginner, to be honest with you. If your kids can already ski and snowboard, you're good. But just as an example, my daughters, when they were like 5 or 6 and they're still learning, and you're trying to teach them, we would always get to this final steep section, and they would go, I don't want to snowboard here, I don't want to ski here, and I'd have to like hold them and ski down that. You see what I mean? That's the kind of mountain it is. Okay, your other choices: Teine Olympia, and Teine Highland. Teine Olympia and Highland used to be 2 separate resorts. They merged. It's now under different management. It's actually owned by the same company who runs Rusutsu, so they know what they're doing. Now, this is the major spot for all the kids in Sapporo to learn to ski, like school lessons. All the elementary schools and middle schools here do ski school lessons a couple times a year. Plus, there's all these other, like, you know, ski schools, independent ski schools who take kids and teach them how to ski. They all seem to go to Teine, but there's a reason for it. There's a whole bunch of lifts. They got a bunch of pair lifts, wide courses, plenty of room to spread out, good facilities. There's a big kind of restaurant right there, side of the road, with parking. Like, it's all really set up just for that. It's also the site, or was the site, of the Olympics in 1972, one of the sites of the Olympics. So they still have like the old Olympic torch there, which is kind of cool to go take a photo of. It's a cool spot, and it's close to Sapporo, so I do recommend Teine, but it can get a little bit crowded with all the locals there, so keep that in mind. Whew, man, talking a lot here. Okay, next, Sapporo Moiwa. Sapporo Moiwa is right in the heart of the city. It's in the Chuoku Central District. It's the icon of the city. There's a gondola ropeway to go see the view at the top. And as far as a ski mountain, it's really cool. There's a course called Usagi Daira, which is a badass course. Like, many years ago, when I was like a teenager myself, I skied it, and it's like this big ass bowl. It gets all moguly, it's steep, it's a pretty gnarly, hardcore course, and you get a nightscape. You can ski it at night. They got the lights on it. It's pretty dope. There's a bunch of cool courses at Moiwa. At the bottom, they got a little pair, and it's pretty flat. There's like a nice flat course at the bottom for the beginners. Also night skiing as well, which is cool. And the only thing that's not cool about the mountain is that it's ski only. No snowboarding allowed. Dude, it's gonna be 2024 in like 2 more days. And the city of Sapporo, city of 2 million, has a resort that's ski only. Unbelievable. Anyway, that's another topic for another video. So if you're a ski family, Moiwa's cool though. You can go there. The facilities are a little old. It's kind of aging. It's pretty like, but in a way, it's classic. It's kind of like going into a really old like record store or something. You're like, whoa, vinyl records. It kind of has that vibe. Like nothing has changed since 1977. They still sell like there's like a little shop with an old school glass case, and they sell like those shitty ski pass holders, plastic ones that you would throw away as soon as you go home. And they've got like Pocky chocolates and like, a couple little like gum and like it's pretty hilarious. The ticket sales window is like literally a little box that this lady sits in, and you got to go up. The tickets are paper, and they punch them if you buy the 12 ticket thing. It's super old school, but I'm not dissing on that. I like that stuff. I will be sad when that stuff all disappears. So it's a cool cultural experience, but don't expect like any high-tech shit when you get there, okay? So that is Sapporo Moiwa. Where else can we go? Just lightly, there's a place called Takino, which is like this big park in the summertime. It's an incredible park. It's run by the city. It's in the southern district of the city, and they have a little resort there. It's like one lift with this little simple hill, but that's kind of a cool spot because some of the park activities are also open in the winter. You can do like tubing, sledding. They've got this indoor section with this whole like rope climbing thing. I don't even, it's called Spider's Web or something like that. And they've got a little ski section. So that could be like a cool thing for a family to do for a day, is to go and ski there and then go play in the stuff in the park. And that's a great experience. I believe they have rentals and stuff there as well. So let's wrap it on that. Takino Park, Moiwa, ski only. Teine, crowded but good for the families. Teine Highland, above where all the kids ski, is a really awesome resort. When the snow's good, man, one of the best. One of the best. It's steep. You get incredible views of the ocean and the city. Teine's all time. And yeah, that's about it. Hope you enjoyed that. I hope that gave you some ideas. You can search for all these resorts on the just Google, it'll come up. Most of them all have pretty good English websites now. You can get most of the information you need. And yeah, any questions, let me know. I'll try to do my best to answer while I drive. Yeah. I won't be putting any links to these resorts in the description of the YouTube channel like all the really good YouTubers do. Sorry. Just don't have the time. So I hope you can do that on your own. Thanks for watching, everybody, and drive safe!